In China, if you're over 25, you are expired in the dating market. You are called a 剩女, leftover woman.
A what?
A leftover woman. After 25, you can't be picky anymore. It's like Leonardo DiCaprio's girlfriend. Imagine China is Leonardo DiCaprio.
China is Leo.
The whole China is Leo.
I was going back to my apartment in Japan when my friend who worked for the Japanese government told me the birth rate is too low and asked if I can find people in my audience who wants to come to Japan to have kids with Japanese women. I got ready to meet some friends who are ready to meet foreigners. When I told them that I'm gonna find them a foreign boyfriend, they were so happy. So if you are interested, follow and share this video.
So this is a video, I'll leave the link. Basically, I got to it by typing singles event in China, no men show up. And I just typed those words and it pretty much came up. But I'm going to leave the URL just so you can see it. I'm only going to look at small snippets of this video because I don't need them bothering to try to copyright flag me or anything. So obviously, you know, you have to stop it like every 10 or 20 seconds or some shit like that. But I'll figure it out.
杭州千人相亲大会仅无一男性参加。
Recently, an awkward event took place in Hangzhou.
Okay, now I've been to Hangzhou. Hangzhou is not very far away from Shanghai. So when in fact, I still have photos from there because back then when I was there, iPhone didn't even exist. This was before 2007. I haven't been to China in a while because what it was I was a student in China and I was going to Fudan University. And during their National Day, which just actually passed, because I think it was like October, like they celebrated during the first weekend on October. Basically, Chinese people come from like all around the country and they go to different provinces to visit. Like they'll go to Shanghai, they go to Beijing, they go to Hangzhou, they go to another place called Suzhou. And Hangzhou is actually very nice. I stayed in the Holiday Inn because I couldn't find another hotel. And Holiday Inn actually charged me top dollar to stay there because normally hotels were cheap in China back then. But I stayed in the Holiday Inn Executive Club. I still got the pictures. And I went there with the Chinese chick I was dating. And we took the train from Shanghai to Hangzhou. It was pretty nice. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, it wasn't really business class, but we did use an upgraded train ticket. And obviously, I paid for it and everything, but I didn't really care because, I was getting the Christmas cake. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't really give a shit. But it was a nice place. We visited the West Lake. And you took like a boat ride and stuff. But I had been to Hangzhou already before. Like I had gone there in 2001. And then I went there in like 2002. But Hangzhou is like the typical city. And one of the things about China is like when you go to one of their cities, for the most part, all the rest of them look exactly alike. The only difference might be the technology in certain places. Like Shanghai has the magnetic levitation train. And then they have the buildings like the Pudong Oriental Pearl Tower and whatnot. As far as I'm concerned, most of those cities look alike. Now, my favorite place was Nanjing Road because you could go there and you could look around, go bartering for shopping and everything. But nowadays, most of the stuff that they sell, it's like you wouldn't even really care. Apple sells products that are far superior to just about anything that they have there. But it was a nice place to travel. But I actually really like China. The only downside was the air pollution.
I'm sure everyone has heard about it by now. At a grand matchmaking event with over 1,000 people, not a single man showed up. The organizers of the event also implemented a relatively unfair policy. Women could participate for free, while men had to pay double the fee. As a result, more than 500 women, adhering to the principle of better to be single than settle, still made high demands on men.
Okay, you hear this? So these women have this, I guess you could call it a feminist thing. Better to be single than to settle. Now, in South Korea, they have, which I've talked about, they have the 4B movement, and it means basically no children, no marriage, no relationship with men. B that means like no in Korean, right? So it's like no marriage, no relationship, no sex, and no children. And that's a feminist movement thing that they're doing over there. And the thing about it is, I think part of what's gone wrong is really it's really, I think, well, first of all, the Chinese government screwed things up. Because first we have to talk about the fact that they had that one-child policy. They ended the one-child policy not too long ago. And they are encouraging people to have like 2, 3, 4 children if possible. And even that's not working. Like, they're trying to turn back the hands of time, but they can't. I had a landlord, and this guy had like 3 kids, and he had to pay like a $10,000 tax on each one of those kids that he had over the first one. But because he was the landlord, he didn't have a problem doing that. And when I say $10,000, actually, I really should say 10,000 yuan, because from what I remember, he told us that the fee was in Chinese money. I don't think they're imposing that tax anymore. And the problem is the Chinese government knows that they have like a huge gap growing between older Chinese and younger Chinese. Now, unless you actually live there, you wouldn't recognize it. While I was in Bali this summer, Bali and Singapore, I invited an old Chinese girlfriend, and she brought her mom. And her mom, well, her father had died, but she brought her mom. Her mom had never left China before. And she's so old, she's 72. She was around during that Cultural Revolution. And the thing about it is, I was watching the interaction. Like, she was taking care of her, she brought her and she basically paid up for everything because her mom, her mom ain't got no money. Her mom's old. But she basically paid for everything. And it was just really interesting watching that, the Chinese, the way they had their society set up, they basically made it so like the family has to take care of the family. So, like, let's say you get married, you and your husband work, but your parents take care of the children that you have. But when you age and your children are age 2 and they go to school, eventually your wife has to quit her job because she has to go take care of the elderly parents. So they kind of keep their money moving in a circle within the family. That's part of the reason why arranged marriages were a big thing, is because they wanted to make sure that they approve of whoever you marry. They don't want you marrying somebody who's not going to, play the game and take care of them and blah, blah, blah. So the thing about it is, now when you have these women working these jobs and going on these, in sociology, they call it the career track versus the mommy track, where these women decide that they're going to go seek a career rather than to have children young. Well, the backfire is that these women end up becoming older and the men refuse to marry them after a certain age. Now, depending where they are, whether it's South Korea, Japan, or China, the men may refuse to marry them after like 27. But they also might refuse to marry them after 25. Now, what they refer to them as is Christmas cake, because, the Christmas is December the 25th. So they're like, yeah, well, if you're older than 25, well, we refuse to marry you. And they refer to them as Sheng Niu, which means leftover woman, or Christmas cake, because they're over 25. Now, if you were to ask one of these Chinese men, or if you ask one of these South Korean men, or if you ask one of these Japanese men, and you say, hey, why won't you marry these women? I mean, they're not that old. They're only, they're just a little bit older than 25. Why won't you marry one of them? They're not going to like that. They're not going to like that at all. In fact, they're going to get very, very, very upset with you. And they're basically going to reply, no! No! What the Christmas kidder? No! No! So please don't ask one of these men if they're interested in marrying one of their own women once they pass 25. Please just don't do it.
Everyone's perception. Nowadays, fully paying for a house and car has become the minimum standard for matchmaking, but what's surprising is that thousands of older single women have ended up being completely ignored. What exactly has caused this situation? Why?
And I think what you have to understand is when she says thousands of older single women, we're talking about women who are just in their 30s. Like, we're not talking about 40s and 50s. We're talking about women in their 30s, thousands of older single women. And this chick right here, first of all, one thing you got to understand, there's not really any obesity problem in China, South Korea, or Japan. So the thing about it is facial beauty and skin fairness is all they're really looking at. This woman right here, as far as I'm concerned, this woman right here over there, like, I don't know how old she is, but if she's anything older than about 25, she's automatically like less than a 4 on the scale from 1 to 9, because there are no 10s. 10 would be perfect. There are no 10s. Don't let anybody convince you that 10s exist. You hear these people use the term dime. There's no such thing as a dime. 10s don't exist, okay? Because that would mean you're perfect. God tried to make a perfect woman. You see how that turned out. He tried to make Eve, and you see how that turned out. The second that she had a chance, she betrayed Adam and God with the snake, and she's eating the apples and stuff, and then she's giving out pieces of apple to Adam. So not only did she betray both, but she poisoned Adam with that apple. So, because see, had she just eaten it herself, God could have just killed her ass and then just made another one. But she gave it to Adam too. So, listen, there's no such thing as no 10. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, there's just not.
There are more and more men choosing to remain single rather than get married. Let's take a look at the fascinating story of Hangzhou's matchmaking event with no male participants. Watching this matchmaking event makes us truly understand what is meant by silent resistance. This event in Hangzhou, which was supposed to be eagerly anticipated by both men and women, unexpectedly turned into a modern version.
Well, you have to understand, one thing that, you realize, like, even me, one thing I'm realizing, and I look at and I see a lot of young men right now, and they've got money in their pockets, they've got jobs, they've got job security, they got careers, they got career security. They're driving around in Audis and BMWs and Mercedes and Cadillacs, and some of them even got Lamborghinis, and some of them have Ferraris. These men are single, unmarried, and childless. Of course they have extra money, and they're worry-free. They're carefree. They could care less about anything. They just do what they feel like doing. Now, it's not that easy over in China, but the thing about it is these Chinese dudes, because a lot of them live with their parents very late into life because of the way China is set up. Like, you can have an apartment, and it's not even that big of an apartment, but you have the mother, the father, and the child, whether it's a son or daughter, and they're living in very tight quarters for a very long time. Like, they'd be in their 30s or their 40s still living with their parents in this case. That's part of the reason why their parents are trying to push them into marriage, and they're refusing to do it. So they'll move out just to go to college, but after that, if they haven't figured out a way to find an apartment they can afford, they end up moving back with their parents. And their parents don't want to see them there. Their parents are basically like, yo, listen. It's like the story of the eagles. The eagles, they create a soft nest. They get fur pieces of the animals they kill and whatnot. They make a very soft nest, and then they lay their eggs. And then they raise these baby eaglets, right? So they go out, they hunt, they kill animals, they bring them back and feed these eaglets. And they grow the eaglets. But unfortunately, eventually, they look at each other and they're like, yo, it's time for this motherfucker to get out of here. because you got to go and grow up and you got to be an eagle, which is exactly what parents are supposed to do. They're not supposed to raise soft-ass kids. I'm tired of seeing spoiled brat motherfuckers, and they're raising these spoiled brat kids. They give them everything, and these kids are useless. They don't know how to do anything. You can't. And then the parents are like helicopter parents. They can't even trust these kids to do anything because kids can't do anything. And then they're afraid if they go outside, they're afraid something's going to happen to them because the children are basically defenseless. It's like raising an eagle with like a beak that's not sharp and no talons. It's disgusting. So these Chinese parents are trying to force these kids into marriage. They're trying to force them to go out into the world and be eagles. They push them out the nest. They don't feed them. And the thing about it is now, and I've said this before, like I'm not going to get too far off tangent. Now you got these kids fighting back because this generation Z and this next generation up that's coming up, Alpha, these kids have no morals. They're like Terminators. They have no feelings. They can't be bargained with. They can't be reasoned with. When these parents now try to push them out the house, these kids go and grab a knife. These kids go and grab a gun. You've been hearing the stories. See, what's funny about the news, the fake news? You don't hear them talking about matricide rates, patricide rates. You don't hear them talking about that. I've been watching the news and I've been like, you know what? I think matricide and patricide rates are going up. But they don't talk about that because it's fake news. So I'm telling you, watch out for these kids. Like you hear them on the news all the time. 13-year-old gangbangers, 12-year-olds blowing up their school and all this. I'm telling you, they got a serious problem coming with this Generation Z and these Generation Alphas. These kids are immoral. They have no morals. I'm telling you, watch your back. All right, let's go.
Of a women's kingdom. On the day of the event, more than 500 women waited expectantly, but not a single man came, making the scene
Not a
incredibly
single man
awkward.
came.
Does this mean that when it comes to matchmaking, men have completely given up and are indifferent to marriage?
Men are jaded towards marriage at this point. First of all, a lot of men, once they get steady with their money, they ain't trying to mess that up. All they got to do is look left or look right, and they're seeing a divorce with one of these harlots taking half of what they got. They ain't trying to mess up their money. And a lot of, some men have basically resigned themselves, and they're like, yo, I'm not getting married at all. Now, the women, when they're young, they say stuff like that. But the thing about it is they're like, eventually when those eggs start rotting and they start tearing them apart from the inside and they start turning into cysts and stuff, eventually the women are like, yeah, I got to get married. Or eventually they even start pressuring each other into it. But the thing about it is the men that they want they're just not doing it. It's like, they're like, wait a minute. I got everything I want. I can do whatever I want. I can go wherever I want. Even if I get sex, I can get sex, with various women. I don't have any ties to anybody. I don't have any vows to break. It's like, why would I get married? It doesn't make sense. And then they're seeing all these celebrities, and that's the worst thing, to see the celebrities losing millions of dollars. Because, yeah, granted, these young dudes, they don't have millions of dollars, most of them. But they're seeing these celebrities getting broken up, and they're seeing them losing half their fortune, sometimes more. Like you're looking at Tyrese, and he's up there crying, what do you want from me? And he's up there crying and shit. It's like, let me tell you something. As a man, if you ever saw me on television crying like that over some woman who screwed me over, I really wouldn't be upset if you snuck up behind me and just killed me, because at that point, there's no point in being a man. There's no point in living anymore. I'm on TV crying, why, I gave you $1 million, but you came back and took another $1 million. What do you want from me? It's like, listen, sneak up on me, take my Desert Eagle out of my holster, and just put one in the back of my head. Because at that point, there's no point. If you see me fall that far, there's no point in living anymore. All right, let's go.
In fact, today's standards for choosing a partner have quietly changed. Many older single women still refuse to face reality, instead clinging to outdated mindsets, fixated on pursuing high standards for men. At the same time,
Obviously, this sounds familiar. This is basically the women in America. I want a man who makes $300,000 a year, and he's the high value man, but he has to accept me and my child from a different relationship. First of all, like, and somebody asked me, they're like, could you please watch the balloon pop dating, and could you please make video responses to that? The problem that I have with that is I don't need YouTube trying to do like copyright infringement and like say, oh yeah, well this media belongs to somebody else and you're going to get a copyright strike. I don't feel like dealing with that bullshit. But what I can say, if I was a man and I was on one of those stupid ass balloon pop dating things and I walked out there, before what's her name, whoever that woman is, I don't know what her name is, before she asks any questions, the first question I'm going to ask is, okay, ladies, before we get started, how many of you have children from a previous relationship? I will personally walk over to you and pop your balloon for you, even if you haven't already popped it. Next, I'm checking your hair. I'm going to walk over to you and I'm going to tug on your hair real quick. If that shit comes off, I'm popping your balloon, period. Like, I don't need to ask any questions. It's like, I'm going to walk out. I'm just going to find out those couple of basic things. One thing I've noticed, women who have fathers in their lives, they tend to have real hair. And that's really strange. I'm also, as a black male, one of the things I've noticed, the real hair is on the black men. Black men got braids. Black men got the dreads. Black men got long ass hair and shit. But the women don't. And it's like, yeah, well, that's not, well, why is it that the men got the femininity going on, but the women don't? It's like something's wrong here. Like something's seriously wrong here. I've got male cousins who've got better hair than their female counterparts in my family. And I'm like, there's something seriously wrong here. That's not supposed to be. In fact, somewhere I have pictures, but I actually grew my hair out and I braided my hair. I got one of those braids. I went to my sister's hairstylist, in fact. Now, this was a long time ago. I was in college. And I think this is back like in 2001 or 2002. And I'll never do that shit again. First of all, your hair is like filthy because it's hard to clean. The braids can look nice, but you got to keep on doing it. Now braiding is very expensive. So no, it's like, I don't know where those photos are, but you know, if they die with me, then that's fine too. I don't need to share those. I don't even know where they are, but you know, and then it can be very annoying. But they got these young boys walking around looking like girls with their hair braided. And, you know, they got like Powerpuff girls and shit. It's just weird. I don't know what's going on.
the conflict between women's rights and financial power has also become a hot issue in today's society. Some men who had considered attending the event revealed that the fees for men were much higher than for women, set at 800 yuan and 1,000 yuan, while women could attend for free. Considering how hard it is to earn money these days, many men felt that the organizers' approach was quite off-putting.
Well, I guess the organizer, most likely, I don't know. I mean, it's bad to make a judgment that the organizer was a woman or a man based on, you know, just knowing that they tried to charge the men more money. But I'm guessing the organizer was probably a woman because they would act as if it was a gift to these men, putting them in contact with these women. Meanwhile, these men are completely indifferent to these women. I'm going to speed this up because you can watch most of this yourself because it looks like she talks for a long time. It says, our matchmaking... Oh, yeah, it was a woman. Of course. It was a woman. That's her right there.
When you truly show up ready,
What the
there's
hell?
no need to show off.
I don't want your stupid
energizing
BMW
utility of the
X5 or
BMW
X3. Those things
Young
are
couple
boring.
successfully
All
paired.
right, yep, here we go right here. This is her. On site and several young couples successfully paired up. So, of course, it was a woman. And I'll tell you this. She's definitely a Christmas cake, but she doesn't look too bad. You know, she's kind of cute. I don't know how much of that's makeup, which is probably a lot, but she could get it. Let's go. Okay, what's this?
It can be said that this was a relatively
Pull this up a
successful
little.
event. However,
Let's fast forward just a little. I want to get to the event. Okay, here we go.
Mine invited me to attend a singles event that he
Now you
organized.
see this chick right
They had
here?
invited.
See, as I said, in China, there's no serious obesity issue, so the majority of the women really actually look just like this. So the issue now becomes the men are mostly choosing over age and facial beauty. So this chick right here, I'm not sure how much of this is makeup because I'm pretty sure, some of it is. Her skin is really, really fair. And I've noticed, if they're young, they have skin this fair. But that some of this might be makeup. Thing about it is, if she's older than 25, these guys ain't going for it. Like, we may look at her and be like, oh, yeah, she's beautiful. She's cute. But that's because we're used to so little here in America. Like, here in America, it's like we have, nothing. It's like we have no feminism. We have no femininity here. We have rank feminism that makes it so that you have women who are ones and twos who believe that they're tens. That's how bad it is. But this chick over there, she actually gets a relatively high score as long as she's under 27. But I've known, in South Korea, they actually, one of the things the men will tell you is they like women with small heads. And when I heard that, I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, they like women with narrow faces, small heads.
Did many people in advance, but in the end, very few men showed up, and most of the participants were older single women with decent jobs.
Of course.
My friend has been in this field for many years and always wants me to participate in his events because they organize similar events every year.
No, he doesn't want you to he doesn't want you to participate because they organize the events every year. He wants you to participate because you're pretty. It's don't get it twisted, lady. She's a pretty girl.
Whether high-end or low-end, often in cooperation with guilds or companies. But unfortunately, the success rate has never been high.
Of course
I
not.
went to check out the scene. As soon as I arrived, I saw a group of women. They all had a good demeanor, mostly older single women, but there...
Of course they had a good demeanor because they're desperate. Of course they had a good demeanor. They didn't have a choice. It's at that point, they're desperate. Can you even imagine? Here you got 1.4 billion people. So over there, let's say you got these thousands and thousands of women. You multiply that times, I don't know exactly how many eggs a woman carries individually by the time they're 30 because, that there's a lot of permutations in those numbers. But you got all those eggs just going to waste. One of the issues that I have is I buy eggs and I buy milk. Now the milk I use. I drink that right up. I have coffee constantly and drink all my milk. I have a problem buying eggs because I never seem to use them all. And I end up having a half dozen eggs that I just have to throw out. Even right now, I only have 2 eggs in my refrigerator, and I stole those from my mom. I didn't really steal them, but I was at her house, and she wasn't there. And I was like, yeah, I need some eggs. So I snatched a couple of eggs out of her refrigerator, and I brought them home because, I was just too lazy to go to the store at that point. But I have a problem with eggs. I end up letting them just go bad. And I end up taking them outside, and I just, chuck them at trees and shit. And, I consider it giving back to nature because after all that, it's eggs, it's biomass. That stuff will fertilize my grass. But can you imagine all of these eggs just going to waste? All these potential Chinese citizens, they're just going to waste. They're just disappearing. It's crazy.
Hardly any men. The few men who did
All right,
show
let's
up were
fast
mostly
forward, and I
those
have
repeatedly
enough.
invited by phone.
Let's get to the event. Uh-oh, look at this guy.
Isn't that simple? Nowadays, almost all women have certain material requirements in blind dates, like having a car, a house, or even being able to make them happy. This isn't the era where people meet and immediately decide to get married anymore. The process of blind dating has become more complex now. At its core, blind dating is just a way to meet people. It doesn't directly guarantee you'll walk into marriage. Most women nowadays want men who not only meet certain material conditions, but can also provide emotional support.
Emotional support. Yeah, so I guess men in general, all over the world, eventually, because see, once you take, see, this is the problem, and this is the real problem they don't want to talk about. It used to be that one of the main requirement, if you were a man to get married, the main requirement, even for the arranged marriages, the main requirement was basically that the woman be a virgin. And that was it. That was the main requirement. She had to be a virgin. They didn't have a problem with obesity, so technically she most likely wasn't going to be fat or anything. So she was going to be reasonably pretty. The reason for that was because back then they didn't have like paternity testing. So for the most part, you know, men knew that they were getting a decent deal for the most part. Back then, they also didn't have much problem with infidelity because, you know, infidelity was basically punished by either a brutal divorce process or death itself. You know, even in the Philippines, it's still legal to kill your spouse if you catch them cheating on you. Like, that's literally a law. Like, you're literally able to do that. If you were to come home and you catch your chick with the neighbor, you're allowed to take them both out. And that's the law. So the reality is, like, men didn't have much to really worry about. And the whole point was, yeah, they would just have this woman, they'd have children. The men are going out and they're working and they're building society up and everything. And the women are just at home taking care of the children and growing up the children. And things were just so much simpler. But now, with this whole dating process, what you have now is you have men and women both on the carousel. And the issue now becomes the men aren't happy with the quality of the women that they're getting. So if they're not happy with the quality, they just refuse to play the game. It's like that movie War Games. They said, yeah, the only way to win is not to play. Men take their ball and they just leave. It's like the basketball court starts to grow weeds and shit because nobody's playing on it. And that's the problem. The women are showing up, but nobody's playing. You know, it's a damn shame. So this guy right here, I could tell he's short. He's not very tall. And, you know, it's funny, in the face, he kind of looks like one of my female Chinese friends, actually, like in the face. But I'm not going to go there. But this guy, I could tell he's short. And the women now are looking for dudes who are like 6 feet tall. And they want all of this stuff out of these men. And it's like they ain't getting it because these guys are devaluing them. And they're going down to Burma, Myanmar, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, Philippines. They're going down south. And they're getting women, they're getting wives down there because now these Chinese bachelors, they have a lot of money. So they don't have to deal with Chinese women. They're going down, they're getting foreign wives. Now, they can't easily do that from like Europe or America like we can. Like Americans can go to Europe or Asia or South America and we can get wives. The Chinese men can't do it that easily. It's not that easy. But that's just the game. I'm sorry. It is what it is.
So, blind dates are not a suitable solution for all men. Why do some people succeed as soon as they go on a blind date? This often has a direct connection to their personal qualities and attractiveness.
All right, let's keep time. I want to see. Now, you see this guy?
Sellers.
This
when
guy
you engage
right
with
here.
such women.
This guy right here. He's got the, like, I could tell he's probably not, I won't say he's very tall, but he's definitely got the face that these women are looking for over there, the Chinese, Japanese, Korean women. This is the kind of guy who they think is cute, basically. And you can tell it, like his head is narrow and shit. And, you know, his skin is decent and all that. But this is the type of select guy who refuses to get married over there.
It's not just about showing off your conditions to successfully match. These older single women often have a lofty attitude, and many times you have to first demonstrate your willingness to invest. even by putting in a lot of effort and resources. Many men don't understand this point.
Some Democrats are too far left. Some Republicans are too far right. But some candidates just...
I care what he
We
thinks.
are all here for a blind date. So why should I spend so much energy pursuing a woman?
All right, let's get to the matchmaking thing. I want to see what it looked like. Uh-oh, here we go. What's up?
With a 40-year-old single woman. She told me that from now on, she only plans to date guys born in the 1990s.
Really?
Out of curiosity, I asked her why. She said that after going on many blind dates, she found that men born in the 1970s and 1980s were all very strange. Some men, even at the age of 50, still complain that she's too old.
No. What these you gotta and that's I'm almost done because this video is only a certain length. When you see these old women going after these young dudes, and even and I'm not gonna mention where you see it happening, but when you see these older women going after these young dudes, you know what they're looking for? They're looking for control. That's what it really comes down to. They're looking for control in the relationship. And that's the one thing that these women do not have. They do not have control. So that's why they go after these young dudes, because they can control these men, these young men. They can control them emotionally. That's what it really comes down to. And they can get what they want out of them because they don't need the money, because by then these women have the careers and all that stuff. What they're looking for is control. The exact same thing that they project onto men, and they say men are looking for. Oh, you want to control women. Oh, you're a controller and all that bullshit. I've been told that before, and I'll look them right in the eye and say, yeah, you're right. I absolutely do. I want to control. Like for example, if you're in my car, I put, that button that locks the windows so that you can't fucking roll my windows up and down without me telling you can. I push that button, and I make sure that my shit is locked. Oh, you're a control freak. Yeah, you're right, I am. Anything else? See, they want to take that power from you. They want power to push that window lock switch. I'm not giving it to them. No, the window lock switch is on my side for a reason. I'm the driver. I'm driving this car. They just don't get it. But they're trying to take control. And weak men allow them to take control. But see, here's the problem. These women, what they'll do is they use you up until they get what they want out of you, and then they just move on. They're like the aliens from Independence Day 4. Like, they go from planet to planet, they suck up all the resources, and then they just move to another planet. It's a damn shame. And these older women, I'm only going to date people from the 1990s. If she could, she'd be dating people from the 2000s if she could, because she'd have full control. Her problem now is that the person becomes too young. And if the person's too young, then he can't satisfy her. She wants to be able to walk around with a goddamn K-pop model like those dudes from F4. That's what, I don't listen to that shit. I'm just saying that was the last, C-pop or K-pop group that I remember, because, those K-pop guys, it's like the Backstreet Boys in Korea. I don't know who's famous right now because they keep popping up left and right. I really don't know. But that's what they want. They want control, and they ain't going to get it. They're not going to get it. Sorry.
Some men, who are short, ugly, and poor, complain that she's not good-looking enough. There are also men who brag about making millions a year, but take her to eat ramen on dates. She said that all the men she has encountered are strange, and these men also have very high standards for women. On the contrary, she said that the guys she met who were born in the 1990s didn't have so many requirements and didn't mind the age difference. In fact, there are even a few guys in their 90s who are actively pursuing her.
No, there's not. No, they're not. Those guys who were in there, who were born in the 90s, who are actively pursuing her, chances are they know that she's easy sex. She's good practice. That's what it really comes down to. It's like, don't toot your own horn, lady. I'm sorry. I'm really, no.
That's why she plans to only date guys born in the 90s from now on.
Well, here's my thing. If you're planning to only date guys from the 90s, then what is the end goal? Are you planning to marry one of them? Because chances are that ain't going to happen. Anyway, I don't know. Did they? Oh, here it is. This is where they actually show. This is where they actually show the dating thing.
And
So
thus
here
less independent,
wait.
leading to a worse situation for them compared to women.
So
from a
what is this?
psychological
The dance
perspective,
thing? What is
some
this?
people argue like this. It's like a football match. If the score is 2-0 and the women fight
Oh,
back
that
to
one
make it
looks nice.
2-1
Yeah,
and
that's
eventually
what I'm
tie it
talking about right
2-2,
there.
even though the score is tied, the side that caught up has a
Yeah,
psychological
that's why they got the
advantage
camera on her,
and a
because they
better
know she's
mindset.
the best looking one.
Therefore, they say that older leftover women will have a better life in the second
Yeah,
half of their
wouldn't you just love to have a chick just like this who has that scowl on her face? And there's nothing wrong with her, because see, the thing about it, you got to remember, I'm an American man. I've been beaten down so much by feminism and lack of femininity in dates that when I look at this, all I can say is, oh, that's some good-looking Christmas cake right there. But these guys, they're not having it. They're just not having. What does that thing say? Under sleep? I don't know what that's supposed to be. That must be a rock band or something. But yeah, Christmas cake.
Kind of reasoning is really ridiculous. I sincerely advise everyone to stop consuming so much chicken soup for the soul. The so-called chicken soup for the soul is just a tool to numb your thoughts, giving you a false sense of hope, making you temporarily forget the harsh realities of life. Just like boiling a frog in warm water.
Huh?
Those who truly understand the truth about life won't tell you the truth, but will just keep feeding you chicken soup. This is also the trick that bosses use in the workplace, right?
Okay.
In reality, older leftover men might be in a...
Let's see.
And for him, his concubines were like his ears, eyes, nose, arms, and legs. They were just a part of his life. But for those concubines, the emperor was their everything. This is the nature of humanity.
Yeah, well, that's a
Some people
commercial.
might say, this
This
is
is a
modern
commercial.
society, civilization has progressed. But happiness, all right? Do you agree with my
Oh, yeah,
viewpoint?
let's go back on this.
But for women, no matter how independent or strong they are, family is still their everything. That's the difference. So I hope older leftover women can realize this and understand where the problem lies, so they can have the courage to live a better life and truly love life. Otherwise, every day you post on social media, flaunting your independence and strength, pairing it with chicken soup, roses, and red wine, trying to prove you don't need love or men. These are just ways to numb yourself. I hope you can all find happiness, all right? Do you agree with my viewpoint? Feel free to leave your comments.
Can you imagine? You've got this country over there, 1.4 billion of these people. And there's at least 400 million of these women. And they are desperate. like, could you imagine that? That's crazy. And then you got Southeast Asia. But Southeast Asia, a lot of those countries are Islamic states, like Indonesia, like Bali was. And they don't play those games down there. Because when I was there, you didn't see these problems down there. It's like the women down there, they respect their men because they ain't got no choice. Femininity is present because they ain't got no choice. Marriage and childbirth are happening down there because they ain't got no choice. You go down there, you look around, you see lots of child stores, everything's about family and all that because they ain't got no choice. What they don't have is this disease that we have in America that has devalued the nuclear family. Why do you think they hate J.D. Vance so much? You think about it. Look at J.D. Vance. This is a white man who's married to an Indian woman, and he's got 3 children. He's doing it right. If you don't have at least 3 children, you're not doing your job. You're not doing your natural job, your job that nature put before you. That's why do you think these feminists hate him so much? It's not because he talked about Shung Nu and Christmas cake. Well, he didn't say anything about Christmas cake, but he did talk about, leftover women and childless cat ladies. Why do you think they hate him so much? Because he's literally an example. He's literally what men are supposed to be. And what they're trying to either deny us or what they're trying to kill that. And they can't. Why do you think they hate him so much? That's why. Even with Trump has had a bunch of children. Trump, I mean, listen, you could say bad things about him. You could say the guy tried to overthrow the government and all that stuff. But at least I do know, he is a father, and he's had 2 women at least that I know of. He's probably had more. I mean, he was rich. I'm surprised he didn't have 20. But the thing about it is, at least he's a father. Look at Kamala. Kamala ain't got a child to her name. Why would I want to elect somebody who ain't got a child to their name? You don't know nothing about family. What would you know about family? You ain't got no children. It's like, why the hell would I want to elect you? But that's MSNBC. Look who's pumping up. Rachel Maddow? Really? Really? Yeah, Rachel, how many children did you drop? What do you know? Nothing. And that's what it comes down to. So bottom line is, like, that was just a little bit of a rant there that probably had nothing to do, or maybe it did, I don't know. But that's the thing. So this is what they're going through over there in China. Like, they're not talking about, in this video, they're not talking about like the 4B movement in South Korea. And they're also not talking about what's happening over in Japan. But they're basically going through similar things. Now, with Japan, I think it's a little bit different because the women are having a hard time dating because the women work very hard, very long hours, and dating over there is a nightmare. It's worse than it is in a big city here. But South Korea, I mean, the feminism is off the chain. And they got a 4B movement. It's like, are you kidding? You mean to tell me somebody allowed you to sit down and organize this bullshit and actually come up with an acronym? It's like, this is ridiculous. But that's what it is. So that's the story. But also, the last thing I'll say is just keep in mind, this only applies to their men. Foreign men like us, even European men, American men, if we go to those countries over there, Christmas cake is ready to be carved. And they are treating their men like that, but we are above that. So you could go and you could see a hardcore Chinese, South Korean, or Japanese feminist, and you're going out on dates with her, and she'll what's funny is they're refusing their own men traditional marriage and traditional relationships, but they will quickly hook up with us because our society has beaten us down to the point where we're actually below their men in terms of expectations. Like, their men won't even look at them if they're 25 or over. Meanwhile, look what we're forced to accept. 35, 40, 45. You got these dudes getting married in their 50s and shit. It's like, their men won't even, as far as they're concerned, their men say that they're invisible after 30. It's like, we've been beaten down and we've been taught to accept less. We've been taught not to expect anything. We're supposed to give and provide and all that shit, but we've been basically beaten down. And those men over there, they ain't having it. They are the example for us, which is odd, but that's what it is. So that's basically the story. You can watch the entire video yourself. Honestly, I think I already covered like the highlights of it because ain't nothing going down. Like, their fertility rates are going to continue dropping. Their birth rates are going to continue dropping. Their marriage rates are going to continue dropping. Their divorce rates are going to continue to rise. And it's sad, but that's just what it is.
Time to get on 5 benefits of dating Asian woman. Let's get it, let's go. 1, you're going to get good access to Asian food. Yes, they believe in cooking for their man too. And you know they make good food. Number 2, they're quiet. You ain't never got to worry about them running their mouth or telling your business. Your business is their business, and they ain't gonna tell nobody else. They probably think it's a waste of time anyways. 3, they age good. When they get 40, they probably gonna look 20. And when they get 50, they probably gonna look 30. Number 4, most of them are pretty healthy. I don't know if you noticed, you don't hear them on the statistics for having a lot of health problems. And most of them, by statistics show, they have the longest lifespan on average. God forbid, on average, most of them do live longer than other group of people. 5th and final reason on the list, they're presentable. You ain't never got to worry about them embarrassing you. Their parents raised them to have a lot of manners.
To be continued.